Welcome back to This Dad Reads. I'm your host, Jason, and today I am joined by best-selling YA author behind suspenseful, twist-filled novels like Good Girls Die First and This Is Not the Real World. Her latest book, Our Wicked Gifts, blends fantasy and mystery into a story about secrets, magic, and the dangerous cost of power. I'm excited to have her on the show to talk about her new book, the writing process, and everything in between. It's Kathryn Foxfield. Welcome to the show, Kathryn.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here.
So glad to have you. I love having a guest from across the pond. Love dealing with, time zones and all of those things.
Yeah, must be early for you.
It is relatively early. It's 11 a.m., so it's not too bad. I still see the sun in your background, so it's...
Yeah, it's about 7 o'clock, so it's still nice.
Okay, great. We both have sunlight then. That's nice. So thank you again for being here. I just want to kind of ask in general, how are you doing? How is life for you these days?
It's pretty good, actually. I feel like I'm living the dream, getting to be a writer and getting to sort of turn my hobby into an actual career. I've been doing it for about sort of 5 years now, but it still feels really new and exciting. So yeah, I'm really happy.
Well, that's awesome. And before we started recording, we were talking about our kids. So you are a mother as well. So we have that in common. What is your family? How is family life treating you these days?
It's pretty good. It's the summer holidays now from school.
Yes.
So I've got my 12-year-old and my 6-year-old at home all the time. And so we're outside having lots of adventures, and I'm not doing very much writing, but that's okay.
That's usually how it goes too. Yeah, we have same situation over here. So yes, I am out of the house for work most days. And so, but still trying to figure out how do we get everything done when there's kids in the house? So,
yeah, it's just chaos, isn't it? You just have to live in chaos, and one day they'll leave home and it'll be quiet, and I'll miss them. Yeah.
Just lean into the chaos for now. That's what we try to do sometimes, And all those cleanliness and all the things that you wish would be, true will someday be true. But like you said, then it'll be a lot quieter, so it'll be just different.
Yeah.
So I would love to just jump right in and start chatting about all things Our Wicked Gifts, your latest release. So it's been right around a month since it came out. So how are you feeling about everything? I'm sure it's such an exciting thing to have a new book out in the world.
Yeah, it is really exciting because this is my first kind of fantasy book. In the past, I've written thrillers and suspense and kind of lent into the horror a bit. And this is the first time I've been able to kind of unleash the fantasy side of me and put in a bit of magic as well as all the murder that I think I'm known the best for. So it's been really exciting to get this out into the world.
Are you a big fantasy reader too?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I read anything and everything. So I think fantasy has a sort of special place in my heart because it's what I started out writing when I decided I wanted to become a YA author. And there's just so much potential with fantasy. You can just do anything you want, and you can write books that are a real escape from the real world where you don't know what's going to happen, and you can anything can happen. And I think it's that sort of sense of wonder that I love about fantasy, the kind of sort of you get to go into a new world and experience something completely different from the mundane world that we all live in.
For sure. Well, I'm really curious to know, you saying that, was fantasy kind of at the core of where you wanted to start with this book? Or were you kind of I like writing mysteries and thrillers, and so I want to, maybe I can tack on some fantasy to that. But so what kind of genre kind of led for you when you were crafting this book?
I think I wanted to change from the kind of thrillers where I was writing teenagers murdering each other and being horrible people. So I knew I wanted to do something with fantasy. And the idea of this book came from watching the TV show Succession, which I loved. I loved the kind of everyone's a villain and everyone's a terrible person. I kind of really think that's fun to watch and read, maybe not to live in real life. And so I came up with this idea that I just wanted to write a book that was basically Succession, but with magic and murder. And that's how I pitched it to my agent and how we ended up pitching it to publishers when we tried to sell the book. And so that was kind of where I came to it from. And then I just wrote whatever kind of came to my mind and went a bit wild with it. So it was a lot of fun.
That's so fun. I'm really curious if you mentioned Succession, which obviously is a huge inspiration here, but were there any other real life families or other fictional families that you kind of drew inspiration from? I got a lot of Knives Out vibes, at least from just the story, the unraveling of the story from here.
Definite Knives Out vibes. I also really liked the film Saltburn, if you saw that.
Okay.
It's kind of like an English country house and terrible rich people. And
Yes.
I think I've always been really drawn to kind of toxic family stories because I love a villain, and I also love a villain who's hiding in plain sight. Like, I mean,
Mm,
serial killers, you kind of know what you're getting, but when it's your mother or your sister or your brother who is like the bad guy in the story, you kind of don't expect it because you've put them up on a pedestal and you sort of said, oh, family's everything, and then they turn out to be terrible people. So I've always really loved evil mothers in particular in stories, and one of my favorites is from Tangled, Mother Gothel from the animation.
yes.
I think she's brilliant because she's all sort of smiles to her daughter and sort of face to face. And then obviously she's the bad guy. So I kind of
Well,
wanted to.
we don't have to go there, but I hope that's not steeped in any like real life trauma. So if it is, I'm
Gosh,
sorry.
no. I mean, I think we all have moments from when we're kids where we feel like our family don't understand us. And so I put a bit of that into the book myself because I know what that feels like, but then made up everything else. Like my
Okay,
real
good to know.
not sell their souls to the devil. Fine. We're all very
Maybe we
normal.
should just put that out there just in case
I know,
any
I
family
kind of,
members are listening.
yeah. I remember reading one book. What was it? It was one of Olivia Blake's books, I think, which was also kind of Succession vibes. And I think she dedicates it to her family, LOL, at the start.
Okay.
Obviously, I did not dedicate this to my family. I thought that would be a bit much.
I mean, but they know. They are the ones on the inside who know the real reality of you. That it's not based on them, you know.
No, thank God.
Are you also like in you just saying that, are you like a true crime person too? Because I'm a huge true crime watcher, reader, lover.
Yeah, I always have very kind of mixed feelings about true crime because I absolutely love it. And I've been watching all these programs like The Worst Ex Ever or the Worst Neighbors Ever at the moment. And I find it fascinating as it's like a little window into like the lives of people who don't follow any of the like rules that the rest of us kind of stick to. But at the same time, true crime does make me a bit sad. And I have
Yeah.
mixed feelings about whether it's a bit voyeuristic to be sort of profiting off someone else's pain. So I do prefer fiction where I can be like, this is not real, but you know.
I mean, totally fair. Yeah, there's definitely like some sort of unbelievable element when it's like real people. But I think that's it's so good to like draw from like the real human experience though when you're crafting something fictional too, because the way you said it, like you don't really I feel like the hard reality of true crime is like, wow, you never really know someone. You might not even know the person really well that you live with or that you love. And so I think that's a great thing to like pull into fiction to like fictionalize, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I will sort of take things I've heard or seen in real life and sort of take them to their extreme in the book as a way to kind of explore like why people behave like this and what the implications of people behaving like this are. And I think that's one of the great things about fiction is that you can talk about real things and important things, but in a way that feels safe to the people who are reading it because it's not real.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I think is so good about having a fantastical element, right? Because then you can kind of really suspend your disbelief in that regard. So that's
Definitely.
smart. So in this book, it's all about the Winter family. So they're right here front and center on the cover. And basically they have these gifts that come with like a terrible price, right? So I'm just curious if you were more interested in exploring like these magical, fantastical powers, or were you more interested in kind of like the consequences and like what people are willing to sacrifice when it comes to like gifts?
Yeah, I mean, I love the magic and I loved coming up with all of the gifts that this family has. But the thing I really wanted to kind of talk about was how people who kind of have these gifts, it comes with to quote Spider-Man, it comes with a big responsibility. With the characters in this book, they're not equipped to handle this kind of power, and they've received it when they don't deserve it and when they've done nothing to earn it, and then they use it to just kind of perpetuate their own power and their own success and don't use it for anything good. And I think one of the big themes of the book is basically power corrupts, and power in the wrong hands is a really bad thing. And it sort of ends up tearing this whole family apart because they just can't really cope with it.
And front and center is Cicely, who I would, argue is kind of the, protagonist. The bulk of the story revolves around her and her perspectives. And her gift in particular is like she gets to like she can figure out secrets of people, right? And so she kind of goes into this dark realm and kind of like figure out what people are hiding. So, and at first, I really like how you kind of like frame it as like, okay, she kind of doesn't really think it's that impressive, or like maybe you're setting the readers up to think like, well, it's not really that good of a gift, quote unquote. But then as the story unravels, like she ends up kind of becoming the key to like figuring everything out. So Was that kind of your way of like saying that we kind of undervalue our own strength sometimes? Or I'm just really curious to know about that.
Yeah, so where that came from was that Cicely is very much the black sheep of her family, and they don't think she's going to really amount to anything because she just doesn't fit in, and she doesn't share the sort of family's sort of single-minded determination to do whatever it takes to stay in power and to be successful. And so they've sort of talked her down, particularly her mother, for her entire life and said, well, you know what, you don't really have what it takes. You're not really a Winter. You're not good enough to sort of be one of us. And so at the start of the book, she sort of believes this. She thinks that her gift isn't much use. And in the past, it has led her into a lot of trouble where she's ended up finding out secrets that have just kind of got her to be a bit unpopular with her family members rather than helping her actually use those secrets to sort of further her own wants in the world. And by the end of the book, she's learned much more to use this gift to be a bit selfish in a way and to sort of use it to get what she wants. And yeah, that's kind of her character arc where she's sort of learning to stand up for herself and learning to be who she wants to be and to use her gift to get power.
I was like taking this to such another like personal deep spot because personally right now I feel like I work in like a corporate America world, and I feel like so often the people who just play by the rules are the ones who are rewarded, but maybe that's at the cost of your own desires or you maybe sacrifice something to advance in your career or something like that, but maybe you're really kind of hurting your own personal self or you're not really doing what's best for you. So I really like that you said that because in an odd way, sometimes being selfish is better for you. You have to like do what's best for you sometimes to be healthy and to be your best version of yourself. So like I like you just saying that right now really made me think like, wow, that's like a really good life lesson sometimes.
It is. I think all of us need to learn to put ourselves first. And then if there's enough left of us to go around, then that is when we can start doing things for other people. But I think it is important to be true to yourself and to kind of put yourself first, even when that means some people end up calling you selfish. And usually the ones who call you selfish are the ones who are gaining from you not putting yourself first. So
Yeah. And I think it's like as a world, like everybody acts like that. And so I'm not saying that's like necessarily the right thing. Like I think there is something to be said about, supporting your community. Obviously, we are both parents supporting a family and like having that be part of who you are. But I think that can also inform like you could be selfish for your family. You can be selfish for things that are important to you. It doesn't always have to just serve you by yourself. So I think that's a really important message.
yeah, it's about working out what's important to you and then putting as much of your energy as you can spare into that.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's so smart. I love it. I'm curious too, you mentioned obviously Cicely is very much the black sheep of the family. It's a very good POV, especially for like a YA kind of book to be in. Was that always the plan for you to have like a central character who was kind of like the odd one out, or did that kind of just arise as you were kind of crafting the story?
It's funny. Every time I write a book, I say to myself, I'm going to write a book about something completely different and I'm not going to write the same book I've always written. And then somehow all my books end up becoming about someone who feels like someone else is trying to force them into a box that they're not sure they fit in. And then the whole character arc is about them learning to be true to themselves and admit who they really are. And I think I need to just lean into that and accept that every book I write is probably going to have this same overall message. It's something that means a lot to me. So I think it was inevitable that Cicely would end up being this kind of character.
I mean, it works. Like sometimes tropes are tropes for a reason, and I feel like it just depends on what happens around them in the story that comes out of it. I love that because it really endears readers and it gives someone to latch onto, and they feel more relatable to me than the people who are the other characters.
Yeah, definitely.
So I want to talk a little bit about. I don't want to get too much into spoilers today, but there's a character named Soren in here, and he is someone who immediately feels like readers shouldn't completely trust, right? Like he's kind of framed as a character who we don't really know what's going on. We know what happened to him at one point in the story, but he kind of reappears and obviously he's kind of set up as kind of to be a potential villain. So how difficult is it for you to kind of write a character who's kind of like suspicious, but also sympathetic and maybe like a little bit romantic? Like, is that fun for you to like kind of take readers on a journey of a character who you don't really know what's going on?
He was a really fun character to write, and he was one of the hardest ones to write, to get that balance between you want him to have a good side, but also this really dark, mysterious, potentially evil side. And so we went through various drafts of the book trying to get him right. And something I love in books is really tropey bad guy love interests, the kind of guy who has smoke following him as he walks, and he growls everything he says, and he's really hot but also a bit dangerous. And I kind of wanted to play with that sort of bad boy idea in the book and kind of have him start out being quite a sort of predictable, well, he's hot but he's also really evil, and maybe you shouldn't be sort of fluttering your eyelashes at him. And then as the long, you find out he does have a little bit more depth to him and he has another side.
Yeah. Well, and back to kind of like those magical gifts that all the Winter family has, like I'm really curious about, did you have just kind of like a list of gifts that you knew you wanted to write about and then kind of went and matched them up with the characters, or did you have a character in mind with a magic? Like how did you kind of work all that out? Because there's quite a few characters here and quite a few different gifts.
My writing process tends to be quite chaotic. I'll write something, and then once I've written it, I'll realize a bit more what I actually wanted to write, and then I'll go back and delete it and do it all over again. And it takes me several rewrites to get to the point where I'm like, oh, that's what I intended all along. And suddenly it becomes obvious. And I'm like, why didn't I get that right from the start? So with their gifts, I had a few ideas. And from the start, the gifts were always things that were going to give this family power over other people, like the ability to kind of say something and have someone change their thoughts based on what you say, for example. But they changed as I was writing, and the only one that was fixed was Cicely, and I wanted her to have this gift for finding things, because she's always looking for something, and the one thing she can't find is the one thing she wants the most, which is like a loving family and all of that. But everyone else changed. Right up until the end.
Oh, and I'm curious too, like if you were a member of the Winter family and you found yourself unwillingly or not selling your soul to the devil, what power would you want to have?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? Like, what power would I want? I don't think I am quite as evil as the Winter family, and I'm not sure I would want a power that allows me to kind of control others. But I think I would choose to have some kind of power that let me absorb knowledge. And so I could learn everything there is to learn. And I'd just become this really nerdy little person who knows a bit about everything. I think I'd have great fun doing that. I'm not sure what use it would be, but I would like it, because I think there's always so many things to learn, and I would love to be able to fit them all in my head. And I just don't have room.
Well, as we record, like literally the other side of my camera is my Lord of the Rings shelf. So I'm like, you would be Galadriel. Like you would be the smartest person who just knows everything about the universe, and for better or worse, like you might even know some of the future. So anyway, maybe that would be, I could see that.
I could imagine myself in a wizard's robes or something.
Yeah. As you were talking, I'm just going to answer my own question, because I kind of really related to Sebastian here, who's one of the cousins, Cicely's cousins, and he has like an artistic gift, and I am an artistic person. So like, I think I would do something like creative. Like I would be able to, again, I agree with you. I don't know if I'd want to do something that I could like, because I don't know if I'd want to know stuff about like what people know. Like I don't know, think I want to know people's secrets. I don't think I want to know like what people's intentions are, but maybe something that I like Sebastian's gift, because it's like he shows their true, in his art, it kind of gets to the person's true essence.
Yeah.
Or maybe something that just would make me not be as procrastinating as I am. Something that would make me do the stuff that I know that I need to go do.
No, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? I was trying to fill in my tax return earlier, and I was like, if I could have some magical gift where I didn't have to do my taxes, that would be great.
Drawing from your previous experience of writing mainly thrillers, like what kind of informed the way you crafted this story that obviously has a lot of fantastical elements, but like what elements of like your skill as a thriller writer did you bring to this story to help you kind of craft and unravel like where the story goes?
Often when I'm writing, I'll sort of have specific points that I'm aiming for, and it's just a way for me to try and keep the book into some sort of form that will eventually make sense. And so I'll sort of plan in advance the big events, like who's going to be murdered and roughly when. And it does change when I write, but I'll have those points to work towards, like this will be the point where so-and-so gets shoved in a wood chipper or whatever. That doesn't happen in the film. Trying to think of something that won't give away spoilers. And so I'll do that, and then I will sort of work towards putting in clues and red herrings that will lead up to that point. So it feels like you're heading towards something. It's not just being thrown at you. And I find that really works with all of the books I write, which all have like a murder mystery element to kind of keep me on track, if that makes sense. But that's about as far as I go when it comes to plotting, actually. It's a lot of it going back and rewriting and thinking, oh, how can I sort of signpost this thing that's going to happen in a few chapter's time, and how can I make this character look guilty at this point? And I'll go and add that after I've written the book.
I'm curious too about the balance, right? Because I feel like you do a really good job of balancing like fantasy, mystery, thriller, like, and because fantasy readers have like a certain expectation, thriller readers have certain expectations. Like, what was that hard to kind of keep that all in balance, or was it just like so much fun?
I mean, I just really wrote what I wanted, and whether or not fantasy readers, thriller readers, murder mystery readers will pick it up and be like, I'm not sure about this. I don't know. I think my approach to all the books I write is to write a book that works for me first and foremost. And then my editors try to get it into some sort of form that other people will want to read as well. But I try not to sort of follow sort of structures that other people have done too much, because I kind of want to be original and I want to be surprising.
Well, that's a great mantra to follow, because I feel like I think sometimes genre does like a disservice to like books and to people. And like, I feel like so many people want to like, I read this, or like, if you like this, you should read this. But like, I'm like you, I read everything. So to me, a genre, it can be a mixed bag. But it's all about just the way that the story unfolds and like the characters. And so I think that you do an excellent job here, like of kind of defying genre, as it were. Like, you don't, obviously you have to talk about those things when you're talking about your book, but I just want to give you kudos, because I feel like anyone who just likes a good mystery and a good story like would definitely enjoy this. Like, you don't have to like fantasy or have not like thrillers to pick it up and enjoy it.
Thanks so much. That's really nice of you to say. I think one of the great things about writing YA is that the sort of boundaries between different genres aren't as fixed. Like, obviously, if you write adult romance, people are going to expect a certain kind of story. You're going to have your meet cute, you're going to have your moment where everything goes wrong, they're going to get there happily ever after. And if you deviate from that, then you're going to have a lot of very angry romance fans saying, no. I feel like in YA, you get to take a bit of everything, and everything gets shelved together as well. So you're not as sort of restricted. You don't have to be a romance writer or a thriller writer. You kind of get to do a bit of everything.
Yeah. What is it too about you for YA? I feel like sometimes I am a huge proponent of like, again, read everything, read anything. And like, I feel like YA is just one of those things where I feel like people can't mentally get over like, well, that's not for me. Like, that's for young readers. But we are both here living our adult lives. You're writing YA books. I'm reading YA books. Like, I'm just curious. I want to hear your take on like, why do you love writing YA, and why do you love YA so much?
Yeah, I mean, I've always read YA, and I'm now not a YA person anymore. I don't think I can call myself a young adult anymore, unfortunately. But I love how fast paced YA has to be. You can't sort of mess around. You know, the story's going to get straight in there and do something exciting. But when it comes to writing, I don't specifically say to myself, all right, I'm now going to write a book for teenagers and for children. I just write a book that I would want to read, and I make sure it does have a kind of theme that would be relevant to teenagers, such as working out who you are and who you want to be in the world. But other than that, I don't sort of say, well, I can't talk about this because this is for children. I can't do that. I'm not writing for adults. I just write what I think is a good book, or that I hope other people will want to read. And it just happens that the books I write fit well into the YA sort of category. And that's how I've ended up being a YA writer. And I think it's great being able to write for young people who haven't decided who they are in the world and who still have sort of hope for the future and aren't stuck in their ways. I mean, plenty of us adults aren't stuck in our ways either, but yeah, it's a really great category.
And I think too, as a reader, like, I feel like you can always relate to that. Like, I feel like the YA age range, like being in your late teens, early 20s is such a formative time that I feel like no matter what age you are now, I feel like that's a time you can always think back to your own experience and relate to that. I feel like just because you're not in that age range doesn't mean that you can't. It's still like a human experience. And so that's why I love reading YA for a lot of the same reasons you just mentioned. But I feel like sometimes, like, you remember being that age, like, even if you're not that age anymore, like, you're not going to forget your young adult years, you know.
No, it was painful at times. I think that's,
yeah.
I think YA writers end up becoming writers because we want to write the books that we would have wanted to read when we were teenagers. And it's kind of like a cheaper way of having therapy. You get to put all of those feelings into a book, and maybe there'll be a point where I'm like, okay, I've done that. I'm over that. I'm going to write books for adults now, but I haven't got there yet.
Okay. I was going to ask that in a little while. So is that something that you want to do? Like, I mean, obviously I feel like you're pretty boundless in terms of your reading or your writing. So is that something you want to do at some point?
Yeah, I'd love to. There's just never enough time. to actually write all of the books I want to write. So I'm trying to sort of carve out a career writing YA. And then if I'm lucky enough to find some time in the future when my kids leave me alone, then I would love to be able to write an adult horror, because I think that's where my heart is, the horror. And I think you get to do whatever you want when you're writing adult, don't you? So
Yeah, that's fun. Okay, I'm on board. I'll be watching from afar, from across the pond, to see where your writing journey takes you. I would be on board with that. That sounds so fun.
awesome.
It's hard to talk a lot more about plot in terms of spoilers, but I am curious because I feel like this book was so like cinematic in nature, and you mentioned obviously Succession, and I was like envisioning Knives Out, just the way the story unravels. But if Our Wicked Gifts were ever adapted for like live action in some capacity, is there any actor who you'd love to see play like maybe Cicely and Soren? Like, do you have any dream fan
That's
casting?
good question, actually. I don't think I have anyone specific I'd choose, just because I think if I was lucky enough to have it turned into a film, I would love for some new sort of talent to come up. And I find it hard when I've seen someone in one program to be like, oh, they'll be fine in this one. I think for the mother in this book, Allegra, I love Rosamund Pike, who was in Saltburn. I think she's amazing, but maybe the character would be a little bit too similar. Rich.
I do say for the cover art of her, I'm getting Kim Cattrall from Sex and the City. Like that's what
Yeah,
the
actually,
mother.
I'm looking at it now. She does look to me have that sort of vibe. Maybe that could work. Yeah.
She's pretty evil. Just put a little, English accent on her, and we're good to go.
No, I reckon she could do it.
In all honesty, too, Kathryn, like I didn't know that you were like English or anything, but I loved how I could immediately tell. I was like, I think I should be like saying their lines with an English accent. I could just tell, like it feels so English, even though if you just pick it up, you wouldn't know. But I love how British this book is too. So like, was that a part of? Obviously, that's part of who you are. But is that something you're hoping like readers will take away from it too? And obviously, they try. It becomes clear that they're based there eventually. But at the start, I didn't know that.
I think there's something really special about a family of sort of British aristocrats or British rich people who've had all of this power for generations and live in this big posh house where we've kind of got all of this history and framed portraits of all their ancestors. I really kind of love that as an aesthetic, I suppose. And when it came to writing it, I think sometimes UK authors, we can feel like, well, should we be setting our book in America because America's obviously a bigger market when it comes to selling books, like will we sell more books? And I didn't really want to sort of go there because I think people will instantly be able to tell that I'm not American and it just won't work. And so it was quite important to me that when we came to edit it for the US market, we weren't sort of taking out all of the Englishy bits and trying to Americanize it because it just wouldn't work. So we changed some of the words, like I think mobile phone becomes cell phone or whatever, but it's just small little language things so that it doesn't.
The way you spell favorite,
Gosh, and realize and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
putting in the Z's. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's really confused by all of that. But I hand it in with the English spelling and then someone else goes through and is like, oh, we're going to change all of this.
We're going to Americanize some of these things.
Yeah.
I also I love that we're just getting into a point where books are just getting released with sprayed edges. So like, it's just so fun. And like the art is so good. And so I feel like it's such like a satisfying, like just overall book experience. So congrats on that.
Thank you. I feel so lucky that I got such beautiful cover art. I got an artist who drew it and they gave me like the little sprayed edges, like you said. And it's such a beautiful book. So yeah, I'm really happy with that.
So I'm really curious to know, like, what are you reading right now? Like, I love talking about books that I'm currently reading, and I love to like recommend books. But like, have there been any books that you've been enjoying lately that you would like to talk about?
So what have I recently read? I read Fruit Fly by Josh Silver, who's another UK author, and his book, it's an adult book and it just came out in America and it's absolutely amazing. So I think everyone should go and read that. It's brilliant if you've not seen it.
Did he write? Wait, I think I read his YA. He has like a duology, right?
Yeah, so Happy Head was his first
Yes,
one, and
I read that.
So yeah, definitely
good
check it
to
out.
know. Okay, I'm gonna literally write that down because I really like those books.
It's very dark, but you could probably guess that from his YA. So
that's fine.
What else have I read? Cynthia Murphy, who's one of my friends, has a book called Paint Me Like Your Dead Girls, coming out about now. Actually, it might have been out yesterday. I think I'm not sure, but that is brilliant. That's all if you're into art and creativity, then that's a good one because it's about a kind of serial killer artist.
I think I ran across that somewhere on socials. I'm like, that is an amazing title. Like
I
that
know.
title alone is brilliant.
I'm so jealous.
Why didn't you think of that yourself? I know, right? That's an awesome title. I was actually tandem listening to the audiobook of this while I was reading it too. So I want to know, like, what was your experience like? Like, did you love hearing your characters' voices come to life?
It is always really cool to get an audiobook edition, and they sometimes send me like little clips of the different audio narrators so I can kind of put in my opinion on what one would be best. And it is always really lovely to hear your book sort of spoken and read out. So yeah.
That's so fun. I love that the fact that they put that out too, because so many people love audiobooks, obviously, and everybody reads stories differently. So I was really glad to see that was a production.
Yeah, it's another way of reaching readers or people who love stories and love books, isn't it? So as someone with a dyslexic kid, I think any kind of way of getting people into books and into stories is a really great thing.
Definitely. Well, I would love to talk about that too, because it's really important to me to kind of raise kids who maybe, if they're never going to be as avid readers as I am, but at least kind of respect like books. And like, I always want to encourage them to read. So like, is that something that you do with your family? And I'm curious to know, like, what are some books that your family really loves?
I'm always trying to encourage my 12-year-old to read, and they're not a massive fan of the reading side of things, but they love books. So we buy a lot of graphic novels to try and get them interested in books. They've really just got into the Alice Oseman Heartstopper books at the moment.
Okay.
And they're so much fun, and there's such a lovely story with lovely people. So I'm really happy they're getting into that. And then my little kid, who is 6, he's just learning to read at the moment. So he's on these kind of short books from school, but we read a lot to him, and he's absolutely obsessed with pigeons at the moment. So we've been reading a lot of books involving pigeons, which, I never thought I'd be here, but here I am.
Well, Kathryn, congrats again on the book. I think that it's a great summer into the fall read. If people are interested in interacting with you, are there any opportunities coming up where you can maybe see readers, sign books?
I'm not doing any events in the US, unfortunately. I am doing a few in the UK. I've got one coming up next week, actually, in London, if anyone wants to kind of come and meet me and say hello. And then I'm also on social media from time to time.
Excellent.
If anyone wants to say hello.
I was going to say, yeah, where can people find and interact with you online?
So I'm mostly on Instagram as Kathryn Foxfield, I believe.
Excellent. And I will definitely link all your socials and any web-related things in the notes of this episode if you're interested. Guys, I cannot recommend this book enough. It was so fun. If you are just a reader in general, like I think anyone would like it. Any age, not young readers, but any gender, any book type. It's so much fun. Kathryn, thank you so much for carving out some time to talk to me today. I wish you nothing but the best, and I hope this isn't the last time that we get to chat.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely talking to you.